Well, we've been trying to negotiate, particularly with the train operating companies, for ages now. We got to a situation on Sunday evening where the company vetoed a proposal that the companies were going to make, that was called the Rail Delivery Group. And I've been waiting for the last 2 or 3 days to go back to the table with those companies. And it's quite clear now that the government has got no interest in making a proposal or allowing those companies to make a proposal. And it's also absolutely clear that they have torpedoed these talks. We gave them 3 weeks before the start of the first phase of action. And the companies, the senior executives of the railway, had put together a document that they wanted to put to us. They'd also put together a set of pay scales that they wanted us to consider. And we would have done that, as we have with Network Rail, which we've put to a referendum. But at the last moment, including last night at around about 6 o'clock, the government decided that they would not allow the railway companies to make that offer, and instead have instructed them to prepare for the strike action, which is we think is really unfortunate, because they've been making all these noises at the Transport Select Committee yesterday that they're facilitators and that they would try and provide for negotiations, but it's absolutely clear that they're not prepared to do that. And in fact, they've sabotaged and sunk the negotiations just as they were reaching the point of conclusion.
I'm not sure if that was Mark Harper on the phone for you, the Transport Secretary, but he says he's a facilitator. Yeah. He's not a negotiator. It's not his job to negotiate with you guys.
Well, he's not facilitating. They're obstructing. I can tell you, Kay, I meet with the most senior people in the railway, and I'm on the phone to them constantly. And they are telling me they've got a document ready to go, which will be challenging for us. There's no doubt about that. There's some demands in there that we find difficult, and people know that. We've been discussing it all through the year about the challenges that we've got to face up to. They've got a document ready to go. They've shown it to me, and they've shown it to my negotiators, and the government has stopped them putting that document forward. The chief executives in the railway know exactly what they've got to do to make a compromise and demand compromises off us. That's what negotiation's about. And Mark Harper is blocking this. I don't think it's him. I think it's the Treasury, and I think the hand of Grant Shapps is playing a role at the moment, because they share the documents amongst the departments. And somebody decided on Sunday night, just at the point of conclusion of these, or the next stage of these negotiations, that they had to put driver-only operation back on the table and into the documents. And no matter what you think of it, they know that we can never accept that as a principle on the railway. And we've been fighting it for the last 6 years in various companies, and it's been our policy for 40 years that we will never accept driver-only operation on our railway, and nor will the Drivers' Union ASLEF. They've told me last night that they will never accept these proposals. So when you're in negotiation, you try to find out what the other side can accept, you try to find out what they can't accept, and then you try and work around those things, red lines. And the company is deliberately throwing something that nobody can accept onto the table. And everyone in our industry, even the management, the executive level, know that these negotiations are stuck because of the attitude of the government.
OK, Mick, let's cut to the chase. Are you saying that this government is purposefully scuppering any chance of a deal?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. They have torpedoed the negotiations, and they have told the companies to take on the strikes because of what you heard in the Commons yesterday from Rishi Sunak, acting tough. He's given in to his backbenchers on all sorts of things about planning permissions and other issues. So he's going to try and make the RMT and the other trade unions as bogeymen and all the rest of it. And they want this strike action to go ahead when there are solutions and possible solutions that railway management, railway executives could put to us to try and get a resolution, and they are stopping that from happening. And if you had the chance to meet those railway executives in private, that's exactly what they would tell you. But they're not allowed to say it, of course, because they're contracted to carry out the government's wishes in terms of policy and industrial relations.
Mick, do you want to have a general strike?
I don't want a general strike, but I think the way that everything is going at the moment, with the suppression of wages, the stresses and strains that many workers are suffering in the health service and education, I think the trade unions have got to maximise their leverage, and it would be daft if they didn't coordinate and synchronise their action. I don't think there'll be a general strike in the way that we traditionally look at it, but I think the unions will coordinate and synchronise their power and their influence so that they can get a better deal for their people, because this country needs to change, and I think the country's ready for change. We need a fairer society that is based on a greater distribution of wealth. The super rich are insulated in this country. We've got corruption that seems to be endemic, both on our railways and in general society, the way that business is being conducted. And the only people that are losing out is the ordinary men and women that are running this country and creating the wealth. And if you take these strikes that are going ahead, the train operating companies will not lose a penny because of the corrupt way the system is set up.
Okay.
And the businesses will lose money all during that period, and my members will lose money. And there's a corruption that needs to be addressed